Welcome to Grow My Etsy Shop podcast, the drips of knowledge you need to start growing. Hey, welcome. So I want to say this really quick. I actually received a lot of emails this last week when I announced that the SEO course was leaving because people thought that their ability to watch the SEO course was leaving. So I want to make sure this is clear. You're not losing the ability to watch the course. So you will always be able to watch the course for as long as there's internet. What's leaving is the ability to purchase it. So once that's gone, it will no longer be for sale, and snooze you lose at that scenario. So that's what I meant by that. It wasn't leaving forever. So if you have that fear or whatnot, just know if you've bought it, it's good. It's good. So if you're listening to this podcast on the Friday that it's released, today's the very, very last day. If you're listening to this on the Monday, which most of you do listen to this on Monday, due to my statistics, I know that. Don't worry about it. It's already gone. Okay. Let's jump into today's subject. So today I want to talk about some of the myths, or, myths is a strong word. Because when you say myth, you think like, oh, it's not true. It's just something you hear. And that's not true. I want to talk about the fog. That's a better word for it. The fog of some of these Etsy rumors or Etsy traditions or stuff that's worked for some people, and kind of just address these foggy issues head on. The truth of the matter is that Etsy, there's a lot of stuff that's unknown, and then there's some stuff that Etsy has shared, and it's just enough that you can spin off a bunch of theories that come from that. Now, I'm not a believer in we only do what Etsy tells us to do, because I have seen a lot of success from people who kind of think outside the box or, fill in the gaps. They go like, well, if Etsy does this and does this, what if I do this? Wouldn't that kind of work? And I have seen it work. And so I do believe that as an entrepreneur, you should always be testing and trying new things and not limiting yourself to just like, I just have to go on eRank and get my keywords and just follow this protocol and data. Like, no, because if that's what everyone's doing, you're just going to kind of blend in and what everyone else is doing. And so you should be testing and trying different things. And part of this is just kind of training your brain to look at foggy issues and how to overcome them. So let's address a foggy issue and kind of look at the truths of the foggy issue and what are some logical theories behind them. So this foggy idea is that listings get a boost when you relist them, or you pay the 20 cents relisting fee and you get them up, or you create a new product and you put it into the Etsy algorithm. This is true. So hold up. Because if you may be thinking, wait, what? And yes, it is true. And let me tell you why it's true. If Etsy didn't have a system that sort of was able to allow newer products to be seen, then because this is how they work. They work off something called a quality score. So your listing gets a quality score of how people react to your product. And of course, there's so much that goes into that. That's the clicks, the buys, the reviews, the stop scrollings, all that kind of stuff is something that's going to go into a quality score. And that's really something that is not just in Etsy. It exists in other platforms. And so I think I've said this before. I am a online digital marketer, and I work a ton with Facebook. I have great reps that are in Facebook as well and get updates on all the algorithms and all this kind of stuff. And this is a big part of their algorithm as well, is just this initial impression, it's called, of a listing. And so we're able to see impressions, like how many, if you're advertising on Facebook, how many people are seeing your product and what's that costing you for you to see your product. Now, Facebook sees so much more. They're able to see how long does somebody stop on that. Did it stop them from scrolling? Did they scroll up? When they, you scroll and then did you go back up? Did you read the copy? Did you read the headline? And they're able to determine how good your ad is based on that initial data that we don't see. And then what happens is they end up so a lot of times you can give Facebook or Instagram several versions of an ad, and pretty quickly they will start to push the budget, and you can just say to them, like, here's 3 ads, here's my budget, put the budget to what is going to work best. And they will pretty quickly determine which one's working best, even though like you may look at the data and be like, well, no one's clicked on any of my ads yet. Why is all the money going towards one ad? And it's because they have all this extra data, and stuff to be able to figure out. Their whole purpose, their whole drive in life is to keep you on the platform and engaged with stuff. And so they are very sophisticated when it comes to that thing. So there is no denying that Etsy has the exact same goals as Facebook or Instagram, which is to keep their buyers engaged within their platform. And so that is being inspired by products, seeing things, clicking on things, stopping people from scrolling, stopping people from leaving, coming into the shop, all that stuff that we don't necessarily see that data, but they have it. And so that is very important to them. And if they don't have a system that allows new people to be seen, then just their old stuff with the quality score and the rankings would pretty much stay cemented, and they would never, they'd just fall out of date, and nothing that was ever new would be put into circulation. So the way that they kind of bypass this or hack this is that when someone posts a new product, especially if your store has a good ranking, and Etsy knows that people like your stuff, they'll give you a boost in that. Now, here's something that you need to note. It is not clear how much of a boost that is, or if it is every day that you have that boost. Is it just for a few hours a day that you have that boost? Is it just for, you know what I mean? Like, we don't know. And so I feel like some of the other, maybe the forums or the gurus or whatever, sometimes promote, and because this is what Etsy said, and it makes sense. They say somewhere between 60 to 90 days, we don't want you to mess with your stuff because we're doing our little boost for your thing, and that gives us time to collect the data to see where we're going to kind of permanently, give you the quality score, and then give you kind of more of a permanent rank. Permanent is a strong word because there's always new people coming in, and your ranking's always going to move up and down because of that. So what tends to happen in this is that you would just think naturally like, oh, for the next 60 days, I'm receiving a boost in my product. No. That's the maximum days that would take place. So because there's a maximum number, they have to share that maximum number. What they didn't say was 60 days minimum, 90 days maximum. They just said it takes somewhere between this 60 to 90 days. Now, from what I know of algorithms, there ain't an algorithm on planet Earth that takes 60 days to figure something out. As easy as, quote unquote, in Facebook it's called the conversion score, but just like how often someone engages with what you're trying to accomplish. And so that's a long time. And what I know of algorithms, it's probably a generous number. And I would not assume, I guess a better way to look at it as well, as I'm saying this out, I'm just kind of having this thought as well, is that it might not start day one for you either. So you might launch a product and it might have a billion products in queue. And so you might not actually get your boost. You know what I mean? Like, it might take time. There's all this kind of stuff. Moral of the story is you shouldn't think to yourself, by putting a new product or by relisting a product, I am going to see a boost for the next 60 days. No. You're just going to receive this is my probably, because we don't know, but this would be my guess, sections throughout the days, throughout the weeks that you'll get a little bit of boost, that they'll compare you with other things, that but a lot of people like this product. Let me put this product next to that product and see how it does compared to that. Like, that's how algorithms would kind of work to be able to collect the data that it needed. And that score will probably be given to you in less than 60 days. That's me navigating through the fog. This is not truth. It's fog talk. Okay. So now, as an entrepreneur, you may have this thought. What if I just boost my stuff every day? And so I'm always just refreshing my product, and it's always getting the quote unquote boost that's taking place, and I'll just be able to stay at the top and not have to worry about the quality score because I'm just getting the boost every day. Now, if you just reflect on what I just talked about before, you're going to see why, wait, that might not make sense, because it might not be an instant boost that's taking place. In fact, from what I know of algorithms, it's probably not. And so you might just be resetting yourself just in the queue of the line to even see that boost. So we know a boost exists. We just don't know when. This is why we don't play that game. Another big reason we don't play that game is that algorithms are designed to not be hacked by the users. Because if they get hacked by the users, you're donezo. Like, it's the shipmates taking over the ship. Like, it would destroy the algorithm. It's the death of an algorithm. And so, like, if people are able to figure out, like, I know how to get on the top of YouTube, and they can make crappy content and get onto the top of YouTube, YouTube goes under because all that's on the top of YouTube is crappy content and nobody wants to engage with crappy content. So the same would go with Etsy, right? They do not, and they have put up, it's where they're going to invest a lot of their time and energy is how do we keep control of our algorithm? And it's why nobody says, here's a book about Etsy's algorithm or about YouTube's algorithm or about Instagram's algorithm, because it's the treasure chest. For some reason, the image that popped in my mind was in the movie Inception, like when they go through all those layers of the dream, and at the very end, there's that little box that has, I can't even remember what the heck's in the box. Oh, it's something that reminds him of his dad or something like that, but it was incepted. So anyway, ignore that. What I'm trying to share is there's something deep inside that they won't share, and that I've never heard of an algorithm completely leak because it's very locked down. And the reason it's locked down is you can't have people hacking it. It doesn't work anymore. So of course, someone around the round table of Etsy has said, boss, what if they just relist their listings every day? And I guarantee you, they weren't like, what? Oh my gosh, it's the hack nobody thought of. Yes, they can do that and receive a boost and not worry about their... No. Of course, they're like, no. We know this. We've got it locked down. We're watching, listing IDs or behavior and all, and so, yeah, it's pretty safe. Again, it's a fog zone, but it's pretty safe to say in the fog zone, that's not going to work for you. So relisting and boosting every day is not going to improve your SEO. And this is why I kind of preach, like, we treat our listings, our first impression, like I do believe in a lot of, like, I call it crappy 1.0, which is like, if you try to be perfect all the time, you just end up not doing anything. And so getting out there and doing stuff and putting stuff out there and is always great. But when it comes to promoting a listing, I do say, take it serious. Have a seat, take it serious, because you want to have minimal changes to a listing as possible during that initial launch of when you put it out. So that way you're not messing with the algorithm, you're not tweaking anything, you're not getting back in queue, you're just letting it go for what it is. So anyway, that's why I preach that, is that you don't want to mess with algorithms. Algorithms are what make you successful. And so you want to work with the algorithm instead of against the algorithm. So by editing all the time your listings, you're not necessarily resetting something, especially if it already has a quality score, or if you're trying to just stay out of the quality score zone by editing it all the time, you're definitely going to get flagged for that. That Etsy is definitely smarter than that. All right, so to move into another one that's kind of a popular fog zone, and you've probably seen these if you're part of any Facebook group, not Grow My Etsy Shop group. Would not be a waste of, I believe it's a big waste of time. So I would not promote it in a Grow My Etsy Shop, my Facebook group that I have. But in other Facebook groups, it's like those like chains or those like circles, or, those ones that you just like promote your stuff and then people like your stuff for your stuff. And then you just kind of go through that process. So Etsy has, and this part is truth, is that Etsy has said favorites to your store is good for you. It does help you. So of course, people who are going to try to hack the algorithm are going to be like, well, let's do this. Let's just all meet in secret societies and pass each other's stores around, and we'll all double tap on our stores and call it a day. Of course, someone around the round table has said, boss, what if people just get in Facebook groups and pass it around and do this? They said, oh, of course, we have thought about this. And so this is what has been revealed, is that, and they use the word organically. So they said, if it is organically found. Now, this is where it can get foggy. Because what does organically mean, right? How does Etsy know who's finding you organically and who's just not? Now, let's look at this from just our own logical point of view. It's most likely if someone just clicks on a link, goes to your store and favorites it, and then really never visits it again or buys anything or looks at your listings or anything like that, they would probably say, yep, this is someone trying to hack the algorithm. And it's never good if you get deemed as someone who's trying to hack the algorithm when the algorithm sniffs that out on you. So note that. So what would an organic find? I think is exactly what would just be the opposite of that, which would be someone's on Etsy, they're searching through things, they're looking for a teddy bear, they favorite that teddy bear, they favorite this teddy bear, they see your shop, they see that you sell a bunch of teddy bears, and they favorite your shop. After spending 20 minutes is kind of a long time. After spending 10 minutes going through your products, looking at your stuff, maybe they add one to cart, favorite your shop, move on to the next thing, and, like that teddy bear. That's a much more organic experience that Etsy's probably taking note of, as opposed to someone who's like, clicks a link, likes a shop, clicks a link, likes a shop, clicks a link, likes a shop. and going through that process as well. So just note that that's another example of just like a foggy thing that probably has some logic to it. And so, yeah, I would take note of that. And realistically, yeah, I would more fight, or I wouldn't be involved in those circle likes. I don't think they're worth your time or your energy. So this last one I'm going to talk about is kind of a big one, I feel like. So personalization in search results. This is one I've given a lot of thought about because it is so vague. Etsy loves to talk the talk of, boy, your searches are personalized. So, yep, rankings don't exist anymore. You won't know if you're at the top of Etsy anymore because everything's personalized. Everyone's going to see something different. Yada, yada, yada. And, okay, so if Etsy says it, they're not lying. They're not lying. However, are they over-exaggerating? I think so. Yeah, I think so. Because I think people who, are big advocates of like, you have to rely on softwares to get keywords because Etsy, you can't use Etsy's search bar anymore because it's personalized. So you'll never know what's working and what's not. It's just personalized to you. And like, okay, that's sure. But let's look at it. So we're in a fog zone now. What do we do when we're in a fog zone? We're going to look at this logically. So logically, what does Etsy need to gain the data it would need to be able to manipulate stuff, to make it so that your experience would be really tailored to you? So they would need data from you. They would need to see your behaviors, what you want, what you're interested in, yada, yada, yada. Now, this is true. This is 100% true. If you think to yourself, well, I'll just log out of Etsy, and now what I'll see is a more organic view of my stuff, or a more true view of what the ranking is. No, you won't. If you go incognito, you won't, because they're watching your IP address. And so your IP address is what's associated with the computer that you have. And so it doesn't matter if you log out or you log in. And Facebook does the same thing. All the algorithms do this. They all do this. And so, yeah, you're not safe just because you're like, well, I'll log out. That'll teach them. Like, no. And you're not safe. So I was just about to say, even with Facebook, there's majority of the websites with Facebook and Instagram are sending data to them. So even if you're not logged in or you think you're safe or whatever, they're still sending that data to Facebook on their end. So there's a lot of that. And domains do the same as well. And so anyway, there's a huge rabbit hole we don't need to go down. So if that is true, and we're constantly pushing data to Etsy, no matter what we're doing, or if we're logged in or logged out or whatever it may be. Oh, and this is another question. Well, what if you use a VPN, right? What if you have a VPN that allows you to change the IP address of your computer? You're just using someone else's IP address essentially, right? And so though it's not tailored to you anymore, it's still a tailored search. And so you're not seeing the true version of a non-personalized search. But here's what I want to focus on, because I think it's funny how much Etsy's a big talk in that. Like, oh boy, personalization. But let's do this. If I'm searching, let's just say I own a jewelry store, and so I'm posting things of jewelry, and I'm going through and searching keywords of jewelry and trying to get stuff fed to me. And so you can see why someone might say, well, hey, don't use the Etsy search bar, because if you're using the Etsy search bar and you're a jewelry store and you're trying to find keywords, it might just be tailoring the data to you, not necessarily what's trending on Etsy. And there's truth to that. And you shouldn't just use Etsy search bar for keywords for that reason. It's because, yeah, you might just be getting personalized stuff that's going to be doing it. Now, this is where the narrative I don't like, which is all you're seeing is personalized stuff. No. Etsy is going to sprinkle in personalized stuff with trending stuff as well. Because it's the same thing as any sales technique, is that you're going to say, hey, are you interested in this? But here's the shiny red car over here. And here's the up and coming stuff that's over here. And here's what's going on over here. And here's where 1 billion people are searching. And you just happen to type in the first letter of what 1 billion people are searching. Are you searching for this? So though personalized, there's still trending topics that's in there. So you know what else uses this? Google, right? Google is extremely personalized. And so, yeah, I might go to type in what is the time zone, and it will pop in Puerto Vallarta, because I live in Puerto Vallarta. However, if Brad Pitt fell off the stage at the VMAs and I typed in BR, it might auto-populate Brad Pitt falling off the stage at VMAs because a billion other people are searching for that. And so it's like, hey, Jared, I assume you might be searching for this. So that's taking place as well. So you can't just be like, well, it's a discount. Search bar's too personalized for me. Like, no. It's totally still there. And like, sure, it's going to be personalized, but it's also going to have trending stuff that's in it. Now, let's take that same logic and apply it to the listings that show up. Oh, let me finish that analogy there. So let's say you're searching jewelry, you're always on jewelry, you're posting things, you're searching for keywords, all that kind of stuff. And then you decide that you want to buy a garden gnome. So you go up to Etsy, you type in garden gnome. How on earth is Etsy going to personalize that garden gnome search to you? Tell me. Dime in Spanish. They won't. They can't. Because they don't have any data on what you're interested in from a garden gnome perspective. Now, the only thing I can think of from a logical standpoint is if you were looking at a lot of items on Etsy and they were within a certain price range. And Etsy was able to look at your entire history and be like, this person really only clicks on listings that are between $40 and $60. Nothing cheaper, nothing over, but really in this range, then it's most likely that you're going to be presented the garden gnomes that are somewhere between $40 and $60. That's the only thing I can think of logically that would make sense in that. But realistically, if you were kind of a jewelry person looking at jewelry, you're buying gifts for other people, yada, 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 and then you search for a garden gnome, I don't see how that could be personalized. I just don't see it. And a lot of people use Etsy like this, right? So they want to buy a card for their wedding. And so they go and they look at digital things for their wedding, right? And they get that. And then they get married and maybe they buy a few things for their wedding and all that kind of stuff. But now they're not wed anymore, right? And so then the next time they log on, they're looking for something else. They may be looking for new shoes, and so they go on there and start looking up shoe stuff. Well, how are you going to personalize that person's past search to what they're currently searching for now? So because there's always new stuff coming in, Etsy can't rely 100% on personalization. There's just not enough data that they're receiving for that. So if you're seeing your product on the front page of Etsy, there's a high chance it's because it's your product and that someone else may not see that. And so, yes, I hate to be the bearer of bad news when it comes to this. However, if you are seeing a lot of clicks coming from a particular listing or keyword, and then you do search that keyword and it's there, like there's a high chance that it is on there. And so it's hard to know where you stand, but realistically, everything that's around you is probably pretty accurate. I would say there's going to be some variables and that your front page is going to be different than my front page. But what I wouldn't say is that your front page is completely different than my front page. No, not at all. There'd probably be some things that maybe some orders that flipped, and maybe there's some products that are a little bit, because I might be a cheap buyer, and so there's something over here, or I might have some Etsy history that brings something up more towards me over here. But realistically, between that front page and as you're scrolling through those pages on Instagram, there's going to be a lot of similarities between pages, especially if you're in the same geographical zone, the same age of other people or whatever. So what that's essentially doing, as much as we can look at that and be like, oh, I don't know if I love personalization, but like if you target and know your target audience really well, you're going to be grateful that Etsy knows that this person is a woman who's 33 years old, and you happen to have a lot of sales who are from women who are 33 years old, and those are people are more likely to see your product than the 65-year-old man who is searching on Etsy, right? We would prefer that our target audience is there. So it's Etsy helping us to that degree. It's just harder to know where we land in ranking. And so that's why we just continue to do our best in our searches and telling Etsy what we have, and then realistically diving into our target audience to understand who it is, and then creating products around the target audience. Because once Etsy identifies the type of products that you sell, it's so much easier for them to use that personalization in the search to help promote your products to other people. So that is something that I actually am going to be covering a lot in future stuff that's coming up. So that is today's myth fog talk. I hope that you found some value in this, of just kind of more or less looking at the process of how we look at something. Like, sure, Etsy says this. Let's look at it logically. Let's connect some dots here. What do we know? What do we not know? What makes sense to us? And being able to make decisions that help make us more successful in our business. So that's the type of thinking that is going to help you be successful in life. Is not just taking what's being said to you as face value and then obeying it like a mindless zombie, but instead saying, okay, well, this is what this is. is it true? Is it not true? How much of it is truth? What wordage are they using? And what are my workarounds so that I can do this? And I don't believe in hacks. I don't believe in, tricks and stuff like that. But I genuinely believe in best practices and figuring those out. And that's by testing and working and seeing what's working for you. So if you like this, great. And I'll see you next week.